Now that we've been introduced to the concept of how we can color correct our images based on this skin tone mix, let's take a look at how we can do this in more practical terms. What I'm going to do here is open up this image on the right of Robin, and we're going to color correct this image. And we're going to follow our guide over here. And I want to do this just to illustrate how we can walk through these different steps. Now, one of the first things we need to do, according to our handout, is to find a good sample point. In this case, we want to stay away from cheeks, lots of color or makeup there. We could work with the forehead or perhaps the chin. Let's go ahead and set a point on the chin. We'll press the I key, select our eyedropper tool. In the options bar, we want to make sure to choose something other than point sample. A nice average, like 11 by 11, will work well. You want a higher average for higher megapixel capture or for higher resolution, because what that will do is it will average out around the area where you've clicked. Step number 2, go ahead and shift click to set a little point. That will open up our info panel. Step 3 says we need to change these values to read or display CMYK values. All we need to do is to click on this eyedropper icon here and choose CMYK color. This will then show us our values for CMYK. Next, we need to evaluate these numbers. And for Caucasian skin tone, our recipe is basically going to be yellow a little bit higher than magenta, and that cyan needs to be 1/5 or 1/3 of the amount of the magenta or the yellow. Now there's also a footnote here which says, all skin tone is different. The darker the skin, the higher the numbers, and also the higher the ratio of the cyan. It might be closer to about 1/2. And also, you have to remember that some people have different tones in their skin, more red or more yellow. This is only a recipe, only a starting point. Well, once we've analyzed these numbers, we see that magenta and yellow are not equal. Yellow is not higher than magenta, so we need to boost that one up. Then later, we'll go back and deal with cyan. According to our little handout down here, we need to do that using our curves adjustment layer. And in curves, we can tap into these different values, cyan, magenta, and yellow, by going to our different channels. Let me show you what I mean. Well, here, we'll go ahead and click on the adjustment layer icon for curves. And then when we click on the pull-down menu, you notice that we have red, green, and blue. Well, red is actually red cyan. Click and drag up, that's red. Click and drag down, that's cyan. Next, the green channel. Click and drag up, green and magenta. So we can see that each of these channels have different types of information in it, blue and yellow. I'll click on this little reset icon to take that back to normal. So if I need to work on the yellows, I'm going to go to my blue-yellow channel, use this little target adjustment tool, and simply click and drag. Now I want to click and drag so that I can bring up the amount of the yellow there. And I think that's looking pretty nice. Already the image is a little bit more color correct. Here we have before and now after. Except we have the problem of the cyans. Way too high of an amount there. Well, where does the cyan amount need to be? Well, remember that little multiplication trick? We could say what times 3 equals 24 or 26? Probably about 8 or 9 or something right in there, right? And then what times 5? Maybe about 5 times 5 equals 25. Somewhere in there. Now it's not going to be exact. In different skin tones based on their brightness value or the hue of the skin is going to shift a bit. But let's give this a shot. Here we'll go to our red channel. Target adjustment tool. Here I simply want to go ahead and lower those values. Now when I go to something say like 8, 3 times 8 is 24. 5 times 8 is 40. Sure, I'm right in that range, except oh no, my yellows are now too low. No big deal. We'll go back there, blue-yellow channel, and here we're simply going to add a little bit more yellow. Okay, well, right there, already the image is looking a ton better. 3 times 9 is 27. We're in range. Or 5 times 9 is 45. So we're in range. Now we could change this amount here, go back to that red channel. We could go ahead and lower that. Yet, in my opinion, I think I'm going to swing this even a little bit the other direction. Now, my numbers are not perfect. 3 times 10 is 30. So I have a little bit more cyan than I should based on my recipe. Yet, when I look at the image, I think that is looking really nice. Here we have our before, and then now our after. Now, of course, keep in mind, the recipe is only a starting point. It's only a guide to get you going in one particular direction. And in this case, that recipe or that guide got us to this place where this image looks a ton better. The skin looks healthier, it looks happier, and we have a more correct color skin tone. All right, well, now that we've seen this in one example, let's go ahead and take a look at how we can apply this knowledge in a few other scenarios, and we'll do that in the subsequent movies.